There was a time in my life, just a couple years ago, where I swore I would never audition again, that I was done. But here's what changed my mind. So, for those of you that are just joining and haven't seen the other videos or know who I am, my name is Jorge Chapa. I'm an actor and a father and a husband and a human being in this world. But today I'm talking about the time where I just felt like I was going to quit. I think it's a valid question, and every that people don't think happen often enough, especially in this industry. So every actor comes across this time or upon this time where we are not sure that this is going to be a viable thing, where we're not sure that this is going to actually work out. And that time came around the pandemic. And during the pandemic, I was in South Texas. My wife and I and our daughter, we relocated from New York to South Texas to, it was December of 2019. And in December of 2019, before, I have to give a little backstory, is that I had some agents, and my agents, when I spoke to them, I talked to them and told them the situation. We had a family member that, was sick, and we wanted to check up on them, keep eyes on things. And it was a little slow at the time. So I said, I can still self tape. Is that a possibility? I have a camera, we have the internet. If I need an audition, I could do a self tape. And remember, this is December of 2019. And they were cool about it. They were awesome. They really liked it. And they're like, yeah, go for it. Go take care of your family. That's important. Go and do it. And then I remember getting there. I'm there for about like maybe a couple weeks. It was right before the industry holiday. And my agent calls and says that they were talking it over with the other agents. And me being in South Texas was going to be an issue. That although self taping was a thing, and a little, inside baseball, self tape is where you tape the audition yourself. For those that don't know the industry, like you're at home, you tape your own auditions. Well, they said that since self taping was a thing, it wasn't going to be the thing. It wasn't something that was going to be viable. It wasn't going to be something that was going to work out. And that was the first strike, right? So I was like, oh man, they dropped me. They dropped me because they said that self taping wasn't going to be a thing. Now, we all look back at history and we know what happened. So that was December 2019. You have January, February, and in March, we get hit with the pandemic. Now, strike two. The industry shuts down due to the pandemic. And it just doesn't shut down for like the 2 weeks or whatever they said to clear the 6 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was that we're going to clear this pandemic. It shut down the industry for many, many months. And guess what happened? Industry finally opened up near the end of the year. And guess what we were doing? Self-taping. Self-taping. That's all we were doing is self-taping, 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 and we've done nothing but self-taping since. So, needless to say, I needed a new agent, and I was very, very fortunate enough to get an agent here in Texas, and started auditioning, but it was just dead. Like, the problem was that I could still self-tape now. Before the pandemic, I could self tape and just fly out. It's not a big deal, right? But now the issue was they were requiring a quarantine period. So I had to quarantine for, 2 weeks or whatever it was, 10 days, 5 to 10 days. And then I'd have to get tested there at their centers. And COVID was just a crazy thing, so it was just making it difficult for me to just pick up and go. Luckily, things were opening up, but life was happening. We got pregnant with our second, and I was fortunate enough to have done a commercial right before the pandemic started. So the week my daughter was born, and that commercial, thank God for that, it carried us through. But then life started happening, and the auditions were slowing down, and I was in a new market, and nothing was landing, but the auditions were just dwindling. They were dwindling down. And then I started seeing the need for things, and stuff got in my head where I was like, you know what, maybe I need to pivot and do something else. I need to get a big boy job. And I truly started trying to teach. I back in South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. There's two colleges there, and I went to one of them, and I thought I could apply there, but there was a hiring freeze there, and then there was obviously a hiring freeze at the other college, which is a smaller college. So then I was like, okay, so now what am I going to do if I can't teach? And then all the schools, like at the time of the pandemic, we didn't know if they were going to come back because everything was, online. They were doing Zoom learning. And so I just didn't know where I was and I felt lost. And I've, at the time, I'm 42 now. So the pandemic was 3 years. I was 39, if my math, I was in my late 30s. So even then, right? So say 30s, late 30s. It's a tough time for a career change. I spent the last 12, 15 years, like undergrad, grad school, spent the last, at that point, 10 years, uh, working as an actor and dedicating my whole life to that. And then the pandemic hits and it just made the industry unsure. And like the people that were getting stuff were already established or they had already been working on something. Or, I mean, it's true. If you have one of the top three agents, you're going to get first dibs at projects, and everybody was hungry to work. And there was people jumping in on projects, and I wasn't there. I mean, I didn't get it. And so I was going through a very hard time thinking like, okay, I think this is it. This was the straw. The pandemic was the straw. And I just started embracing, my wife's pregnancy for our second, and out of nowhere, when I didn't know what I was doing or I was going to be doing, and just I spent a lot of nights just losing sleep. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it was May of 2021, and I was just very lost. I just figured like I need to start looking for something else. Started looking at other training. I started thinking about, okay, now it's time to pivot, right? I gotta get that 9 to 5. And then I get this one audition from New York, and it was from a casting company that gave me my first acting job. And I hadn't gotten an audition in months. And it was one line, but it was for a recurring guest star, and I was so happy to get it. I was just like, you know what, this may be the last one, and this is the last one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have fun with it. With my one line, it was one line. I was like a recurring guest star, but one line. So I was like, there's not much you can do with one line, so I'm just gonna give it as much life as I can. I played around. I did a little improv. And I just figured, you know what? I was in a negative headspace, so I was like, you know what? I'm probably not going to get this anyway. So let's just have fun with it. Let go, let God, and let's just focus, on getting through this last month of my wife's pregnancy. So I taped it. It was early of May. My wife goes into labor on June 1st. And as we're going to the hospital, I noticed my phone says that I got a new follower on Instagram, and it was the creator of this show. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what is happening? Did I get the part? And I wanted to ask my wife, but my wife is in labor, and so I didn't know whether I should reach out or what I should do. Just usually when you get the role, when you get an offer, you get a phone call or an email. Be ready for this. There's an avail check. I've talked about avail checks when they check your availability, meaning you're in the mix for things. But I couldn't do that right now. My wife was giving birth, and so I was like, you know what? Forget about it. I'm going to give it a couple days. And my son was born June 2nd. And I went back to it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to message this person, and just to let them know that I acknowledge that they followed me. And I said, thank you for letting me tape for your show. Whatever way you go, I just wish you lots of success, whether I get it or someone else gets it. Just lots of success. And then I just said, you know what? I'm just going to be a dad. And I ended up getting the part. And they told me that I brought so much life to that one line, and more life than anyone else did the tape for that, and that's what got me the part. And I went back to New York in 2021 to shoot this pilot. And I would love to say that, that story that you hear all the time where the person says, well, I'm going to quit, and then they get their big break. Well, that's not the case. The pilot didn't get picked up, but what did happen while shooting that pilot is that I remembered that I was placed on this earth to be an actor. When I was on set, when I stepped on set, I knew that that's where I belong. Working with all these people, with all these cameramen, these other actors and actresses, these sound people, these gaffers, electricians, everybody. That's where I was meant to be. And that's the one thing that really just changed my mind is like, I'm not done with this industry. We moved back to New York, and I ended up working a few more times, and I just was cemented when I did Law and Order a few months later, and I did another show called Obliterated, and it was just like one of those things. And just because this show didn't catapult me into stardom, it did reignite that flame and reminded me that I had a purpose in this world, and that's to be an actor. And I know for a fact, like, it's going to happen. Whether it's going to be in a year or next week, something big is going to happen. And I know that I am placed on this earth to share stories. And if you're going through that time where it's like you don't know where you belong, you don't know what you're doing, just trust the process. I think what helped me was just embracing what was right before me. As my wife was about to give birth to our second, we have already another little one, and I was enjoying her and like seeing her take her first steps and saying her first words and all these beautiful things. It's just enjoying the present, and then you get reminded what you're supposed to do. That's my story. It's like, just when you think you're about to quit, just keep pushing. There's that picture that I see circulating on Instagram or wherever it is, where it's like there's a cartoon, one guy on the top, one guy on the bottom, and they're in a mine, and the guy on the bottom is just like right there, about an inch away from the diamonds, and he gives up, but the other person is gonna go no matter what. You got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. It's difficult, whether you're, an actor, whether you're a singer, whether you're a teacher. Sometimes these days just feel like it's never going to happen. Nothing big is going to happen, but you're doing it. So hang in there. Follow that dream. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Like I'm posting these videos. I'm not expecting much. I mean, I've done YouTube before. I get maybe 20 views. I get maybe 30 views, but I'm just sharing my stories, and if you can relate, then thank you for watching. I mean, I appreciate it if you subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, if you like it, if you share it, if you just come back and watch it. But, we're all going through something, and if this does reach somebody, I'm a happy guy. And that's how I feel about my career, is that I know somewhere someone is going through the same thing, and if I can be that inspiration, I will be. So, thank you for watching. Like I said, hit the subscribe button, smash that like, do whatever. And thank you for those that have been watching. Have a good one.